environment. Okay, so we're going to understand. Very many students tend to think that organisms only involve humans or animals, but we have different types of organisms. Plants are also organisms. Don't forget that. This is a mistake that very many students tend to think that when you're talking about organisms, you're only thinking about yourself. So when we are looking at organisms, we mean all animals, plants, bacteria, anything. So they're all organisms. So their ability to detect and respond to changes in the internal, we shall understand what we mean by the internal environment as well as the external environment. Okay. There are some definitions which you must understand before we can take on this topic, because they are very crucial. We shall be using these words very often, so you must understand them individually. One is irritability. Irritability being one of the characteristics of living organisms. If you still remember, actually in biology, the topics are divided according to the characteristics of living organisms, which can normally be abbreviated as Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green. Okay. And irritability or response being one of the characteristics of living organisms. So with irritability, that is its ability of an organism to detect and respond to a stimulus. But then what we mean, yes, please.
Could you first stop sharing a bit? I help these learners because they can't hear me.
Oh, like they can't hear me?
They can't hear me or they can't hear you. Some of them, they need help. Let me first do that. First stop sharing.
Okay, please. Okay, please.
Hopefully you can see my screen. Teacher Boomba, can you see my screen?
Yes, please. I can see what is on your screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell Rebecca, someone is called me, someone is Agnes, Kevin, so that they can connect. Because once they don't connect, they just see the screen, they don't hear anything. And there are many others are taking a what. You can check in the chat. So I'm copying this. I'm going to be putting it in the chat. So for now, you can continue.
Okay. Thank you for that. I was still telling you that response, a stimulus is that change in the external or internal environment to which an organism responds. And there are very many different kinds of stimuli. For example, you could think of a plant, and then the sun. The sun or the light coming from the sun can be one of the stimulus. Okay. You could think of water. You could think of touch. There are different anything within the internal, external environments. They are all different kind of stimuli, which you must take note of. Now, once you've joined, please mute. For example, David V, you mute so that we may not get that feedback. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Then response. what is that response? Because we have just understood what a stimulus is, anything that is detectable in the environment. Now, a response is a change shown by an organism in reaction to a stimulus. And there are also very many different kinds of reactions. For example, if a dog is interfaced with a stimulus of food, which is meat or a bone, it may tend to salivate. Techno, come on one, please mute. For students, I think most of us are just learning how to use this, but in most cases, try to mute, like Techno, come on one. Please mute so that we don't get that feedback from the background. Techno, come on one, please mute.
Teacher, you are even a co-host. You can mute those who disturb you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I was still telling you that that if a dog is interfaced with a stimulus such as this meat here, piece of meat, of course it is food, it's going to begin salivating. Now that's the response, the salivation. That is the response. And inside it, there are organs that are responsible for detecting, for example, the eyes have seen, and then it is responding by salivating because it wants to eat food. There's also some other term like impulse. Now we are going to interface with this term called impulse, and when we are looking at coordination in animals, because this topic is divided basically into one, coordination in plants as well as coordination in animals. Now, in coordination in animals, that's where we shall look at impulse most of the time. And this is a nervous information transported along nerves in a nervous system. Now, what you must know is that our bodies, okay, someone's asking if this is senior theory. Yes. For some of you who are not aware, this topic, this is according to this term, in the syllabus, this is the topic which we're supposed to be learning. And that's why I took it on. So impulses, it's just a nervous info. This is how the communications, the nerves normally communicate. Now, our bodies normally have nerves in every part of our bodies. They are nerves, nerve cells. Now, these nerve cells are in charge of detecting and then transporting signals, electrical signals around to the central nervous system. The central nervous system, I mean the brain and the spinal cord. Now, it is the brain which is supposed to coordinate all these. And what you must know is that every part of your body, you have nerves in them, or you can call them neurons in every part of our body. And you can see this kind of chart looking at the nervous system. Now, for more about the nervous system, we shall be looking at it under coordination in animals. That's where we shall to classify it. Okay. Yeah, people are asking whether this is senior 3. Yes, this is senior 3. This is senior 3, and this is one of the topics where we are supposed to be. And it is one of the most challenging topics, so you must be paying attention. Then another term that we shall be looking at are effectors. Effectors, these are cells or organs in an organism where a response to a stimulus occurs. And most of these are normally body organs, because we have a heart. That's one of the organs. We have lungs. Now, these are going to be found in your chest. There are some people maybe who have not yet learned how to use Zoom. They're bringing feedback. Okay, thank you. Okay, I was still telling you that in your chest you have the ribs which you normally feel, and this rib cage holds or protects organs inside. You have the heart, which is directly behind the breastbone, which you can also call the sternum. This behind it, these are lungs. Now, all these ones are supposed to enable you to respond to different changes in the environment. For example, in case there is low oxygen concentration, your lungs are supposed to respond. Your heart is supposed to respond, pumping the heart faster, like to increase the rate of ventilation, that is taking in air and taking it out. You have the lung, you have signs, you have muscles. These are muscles. These are all organs which are supposed to help you respond to different stimuli in the environment. Then receptors. Now receptors, these are cells. Receptors, these are cells or organs that receive the stimulus and change it, and then they change it into the nervous impulses. Remember, nervous impulses are like electrical signals that are transported within the nerve cells. If you want to understand this well, think of a light, a bulb, and a switch. I'm assuming you are in a room and there is a switch whereby if you want to turn on the light, you switch on. You switch on, and normally this switch is connected to the bulb by a wire which normally runs within the wall. The moment you switch on, the bulb lights. But then you can't even know the number of seconds it has taken for the electricity to move or the current move within the wire to turn on the bulb. So this is the same thing that actually happens. And actually, what happens is the body is actually faster than switching on a bulb. So we have very many different receptors, and these receptors are in different organs. For example, in the eye, you have light sensitive cells in the retina. Now, again, for this syllabus, we shall be able to study the eye in detail, and even those cells that I'm talking about, the cells that are supposed to detect light in the environment. We shall talk of the ear, which is going to enable you to detect sound. We shall talk of the tongue in the mouth. We shall talk of touch, like when you touch something, and then also smelling something. All these organs and cells in them are supposed to enable you to detect and respond to stimuli within the environment. Then the internal environment, which is the immediate surrounding of the cells. And then we have the external environment. You may not know much about the internal environment, but actually you have already studied it. If you remember, and you've done a topic called nutrition, for example, or even respiration, the cells where within the body of an organism, where those cells are, that's the internal environment. Okay, that's the immediate surrounding of the cells. Then the external environment is where you stay. For example, we people or humans, we are in the globe. We are in our planet called Earth. Okay, if I may just get this. Yeah. Now, within our planet called Earth, you find that there are some organisms that stay in water. Now, that's their external environment, in water. And then there are some that tend to stay in the sky for some time, like birds. That is going to be their external environment. There are some which stay in grass or in the forest. That is going to be their external environment. But then remember, like an external environment, you can find very many factors. For example, you're going to find sunlight in the external environment. So organisms must respond to it. You're going to find chemicals. You're going to find wind. You're going to find light. You're going to find darkness. Anything within the external environment. So you must understand all those aspects. Then coordination. When we are looking at this topic, having looked at that, we normally first start with coordination in plants. we begin with the coordination in plants. Now, the other one was just an introductory part. So this is where we are starting from, and we are looking at what we call coordination in plants. Now, imagine yourself as a plant. Yes, someone raised the hand. You have Galaxy Grand. You have a question. Someone using a phone, Galaxy Grand Prime Plus. You have a question. You raised your hand. Please ask. If you raise a hand and you want to ask, like this Galaxy Grand Prime, using the Galaxy Grand Prime, unmute and then speak out. You unmute and then you speak out your question. Okay. So I was still telling you that imagine yourself as a plant. Now you move. The moment, let's say that is your area where you're supposed to stay all your life. You can imagine. So you are supposed to be able to respond to different stimuli. For example, plants like light because they use sunlight to make energy. Now imagine you're planted in some dark corner. Imagine yourself being planted in some dark corner, and then I'm assuming this is the dark corner, but then sunlight is hidden somewhere, and then you know you need it to survive. So how are you going? Are you going to just walk? You are a plant, you can't walk. You are supposed to have some mechanisms of how you can tap the sunlight somewhere. All nutrients. Imagine there is water here. Imagine there is a pond there. I'm assuming this is water. This is water in a pond. And then you know that you need this water. You can detect it. So you are supposed to have mechanisms of making sure that you can actually grow. You can actually grow towards the water source so that you can tap it. So all in all, plants use what we call hormones, plant hormones. Of course, there are quite many. But generally, we call them auxins. We call them auxins, plant hormones. And we're supposed to understand one by one. Because as a plant, you don't have a nervous system. Plants don't have nerves that are going to enable them detect. So what do they use? They use actually hormones. Then plant responses are divided into three. One is the Nastic response. We are going to understand what we mean by Nastic responses. Then two, we also have what we call tactic responses. And then three, we have what we call tropisms. Now, tropisms are the ones which are studied widely, and we shall have to have a bigger lesson on tropisms. Then Nastic responses, there are quite a few organisms that exhibit there are quite a few organisms that exhibit Nastic responses and as well as tactic responses. Okay, so we are going to understand one by one, and we can begin with Nastic responses. Now, this is the movement of part of the plant in response to a non-directional stimulus. And I repeat, in response to a non-directional stimulus. And this can be observed in the closing of leaves of Mimosa pudica. Now, Mimosa pudica is some kind of plant. In Luganda, one of the native languages, it's called Moko Weumbe. That is Mimosa pudica. Moko Weumbe. That is in Luganda. Moko Weumbe. For some of you have seen it before. Yes, it is that one. Probably you have seen it somewhere before with these kinds of leaves. The moment you tap it, whether from the behind, whether from up, whether from down, what actually happens is that the leaves are going to fold. Now, this is what we call a Nastic responses. That is movement of part of the plant. Now, in this case, the part are its leaves in response to a non-directional, like the stimulus like your touch. If you are bringing your hand to touch it like that, it doesn't matter whether it is coming from the left, from the right, from up, from down. So the stimulus is non-directional, coming from a wide range of direction. You don't have, it doesn't have to come from a particular direction. And this is key to defining this response. And this is the most common example. Another one is the tactic responses. Now, if you want to understand tactic response, think of a taxi. Think of a taxi. What normally actually happens is that a taxi normally moves people from one area to another. A taxi is going to move people. You find that the whole organism is going to either move towards or away from a unidirectional stimulus. That means the stimulus must be coming from a given direction. For example, it could be, I'm assuming this is, normally we have what we call pit latrines. So you enter a pit latrine. Inside the pit latrine, you have one small hole. So normally you have closed the door. I'm assuming you have closed the door. So when you open, light is going to enter through that hole. So you find that the moment light shines on some of, let's say, the lava, the blowfly, the blowfly in Luganda is called enswera, or green or blue house flies. They're called blowflies. Now, when they are lava, which you can call maggots, see light, they're going to run away. That you can see that light is going to be coming from a particular direction through the hole, from a particular direction through that particular hole. So with the tactic responses, it is going to involve movement of the whole organism towards or away from a unidirectional stimulus. Now, if it is towards, that is positive. If it is away, that's negative response. Another example could be the chlorella or the chlamydomonas. Now, these chlamydomonas, such lakes which have been contaminated a lot, you find what is going to be so green. If you try to pick a sample of this water and you analyze it in a microscope, you're going to find very small, minute organisms. They are kind of spherical. They're called chlorella, and they are responsible for making this water to turn green. They make this water turn green. Okay, it's some kind of algae. It's a different species. You know, algae has different species. Then 3, tropism. Remember, we have looked at nastic responses. Secondly, we have looked at tactic responses. Then 3, we are looking at the tropisms. Now, with the tropism, this is a growth movement of part of the plant towards or away in response to a unidirectional stimulus. Now, growth movement is key to tropism, because with the tropism, the plant does not respond by either running away like in taxis or tactic responses, or by changing part of its body like leaves like in nastic responses. Rather, in tropic responses, or you can call them tropisms, it's going to be a growth. The plant either grows towards or away. And it can be divided into many, many different portions. One, it can be like hydrotropism. Remember, tropism is growth movement or response. Now, hydro, this suffix hydro has to do with water. Remember, in primary school, you said about hydroelectric power. That is power, electricity generated from water. That is, hydro means water. Okay, so the stimulus normally is going to be water. Now, tropism is a common word in all these terms, but then they have some suffixes here, prefixes here, like for example, thigmo. Now, thigmo has to do with the touch. Whenever you see thigmo, tropism, so a plant is going to grow by just touching it. We shall understand what I mean by that. Then, chemotropy. tropism. With tropism, there are chemicals within the environment, whether internal or external, to which the plant can respond to. Then another one is going to be geo. Now, geo means earth. This is going to be like a response, a growth response towards gravity. Now, you cannot see gravity. You cannot say like, hey, I'm seeing gravity. Gravity is there. No, you can't see gravity, but you can feel it when you jump. You come down. That's gravity. It is gravity pulling you. So we understand it, we feel it, we experience it, but we can't see it. So likewise, that gravity which we can't see but we experience is going to affect growth movement in plants. Another one is going to be phototropism. Now, photo means light. Photo means light. And I think this is very clear that most of you have taken photos or pictures. So normally it has to be taken in presence of light. Like you cannot go in darkness with your camera without a flash of light and then you take a picture. You're not going to be seen. So with photo, it means light. No, this is going to be a growth response towards light. But remember, for tropism, it's supposed to be in unidirectional stimulus. One, remember, I said one was a nastic response. It was nastic response. Then the other was the tactic response. And then the other was the tropic response, was the tropic or tropism, the tropic response. Now, in both tactic and tropic or tropism, the stimulus is unidirectional. Don't forget that. But in nastic response, the stimulus is non-directional. What do I mean by uni? Uni means one, like single, unidirectional, coming from a given direction. But the difference is that with the tropic responses, these are growth movements. The plant must grow towards or away from a stimulus. With the tactic, it is going to involve movement of the whole organism, And then with the nastic, it's just going to change. Based on tag-up changes. Okay. So we can first look at types of taxis. Tactic, or you can call them tactic responses. We have what we call phototaxis, that is in response to light. We also have chemotaxis. Just know that all these prefixes, which I explained: photo, response to light, chemo, chemicals, thermo, touch, geo, gravity. Okay, and there are quite a number of examples. One, we have unicellular organisms like euglena. Now, euglena organisms can swim towards light, and hence they're going to be positively tactic. Remember, positive, it means something is going or towards, it is towards the stimulus. But negative is away from the stimulus. And I can show you here in picture one. What you're seeing here, these are the euglena in a microscope. This is euglena, this is euglena, this is euglena. Now, this is not euglena. Guess what? And I think you've seen this before. This organism that looks like a sandal. We have sandals which we call umoja. If you have ever put on such sandals called umoja, which are in this kind of shape with cilia, just know that is paramecium. So this is the paramecium. So this is not euglena. So euglena is this one with this flagella. So it uses this flagella to move, and you can see that it has some green pigments in it, meaning that it can carry out photosynthesis. So this one can grow, it can swim towards light in case you shine a torch towards it. Then another example is the each one of you here has ever seen cockroaches, because they are very common in our homes. They move away from light. But then wood lice, some of you have never seen wood lice. These are the ones. I don't know how you, I think you could be having a name of how you call them in your local language, but these are the ones. If you ever visit a forest or a bush, sometimes you can find a log, a tree, which fell a long time ago and it is decomposing. Try to push it, you're going to find them, many of them there. You're going to find they're called wood lice. Okay. And then we also have what we call sperms. Sperms can swim towards the chemical produced by the ovum. Now remember, sperms are normally produced by a male organism. It could be a dog. A dog can produce sperms. Okay. It could be a cat. It could be a human. So anything, a male can produce sperms as long as it is fertile. Now, remember, for these animals, they deposit sperms into the female. I'm assuming this is the female. I'm assuming this is the female organism. So they're going to deposit the sperms inside. Now, normally inside the female, there is what we call the ovaries inside them. So once the sperms have been deposited inside, they must swim. But then what directs them are chemicals produced by the egg inside the female organism. You get it? So the sperm is going to swim towards, and in picture 4 here, these are sperms. This is a picture generated to show sperms, and you can see they have a flagella which they use to swim towards the egg so that the egg can be fertilized. And you can see normally they are produced in large quantities so that it increases chances of fertilization of the egg. Then another example of tactic responses could be a white blood cell moving towards the harmful bacteria in your body. So that is going to be positively chemotactic. So this is in picture. So this is picture 3. In picture 3, you can see this is the structure of the white blood cell. And these are bacteria, and it is trying to engulf. We use the word in normal language. You could call it to swallow. But in biology, we use the word to engulf bacteria, digestive enzymes, or we can call them hydrolytic, and then it is no more. If you have understood, I have some few questions for you to see whether you've understood. We have question 1. Which one, it says, which one of the following responses is due to stimulus coming from one direction? Which one of the following responses is due to stimulus coming from one direction? So you could raise your hand and you tell us if you have understood. Which one of the following responses is due to stimulus coming from one direction? You could raise your hand and then you unmute and then you tell us the answer. Yes, Mubaka Shadrach.
Yeah, he said tropic.
Okay, thank you very much, Mubaka. Thank you. Mubaka says it is actually okay. Okay, Mubaka says that the answer is tropic. Mubaka says the answer is tropic, and yes, this is true, because remember, its response is due to stimulus coming from one direction. That was the unidirectional stimulus. Yeah, it was tropic response. How about tactic? How about tactic? Isn't it also correct? It could also be correct, because even for tactic, the response was coming from one direction. So it could be tropic if they had, in this question, if they had included the word like which one of the following, let's say, growth responses, and there was this word, growth responses, is due to stimulus coming from one direction? Then the answer entirely would be tropic response. It would be tropic response entirely. Then question 2 says that which one of the following is an example of a tactic response? Which one of the following is an example of a tactic response? A says rolling up of leaves on a sunny day. B says withdrawal by blowfly larva is withdrawal of the hand from a plant shoot towards light. Bending of the plant shoot towards light. We could also have some other person taking on that question. You just raise your hand and then you tell us the answer. We have very many people here, and you can tell us the answer. We have Nakato, Ndirema, Oli, Ronald, have very many people. Yes, Shalon Baguma.
It's D. D, bending of a plant shoot towards
D.
light.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Baguma says that bending of a plant shoot towards light. Do you people agree that bending of a plant shoot towards light is tactic? The tactic response. Does every one of you agree? We have Agnes, we have Albert, we have Lucky, Clinton, Mwende, Mariam. Yes, Mubaka, do you agree with what Bakuma said?
I don't agree.
So what do you think is the answer? What do you agree with?
I agree with C.
Okay, Bakuma says C. Sorry, Mbaka says C. Because the question says which one of the following is an example of a tactic response? C says withdraw the hand from a hot object. You guys agree now? Okay, I'm saying, okay, for time's sake, remember, what did I say about tactic responses? When I was explaining tactic responses, you may mute. When I was explaining tactic responses, I gave an example of a taxi, that a taxi moves people from one place to another. A taxi is going to move people from one place to another. Now, with the tactic responses, always think about movement of the whole organism in response to a given stimulus. It doesn't have to be its body part. No, it's supposed to be movement of the whole organism. And you can see all these examples which I've given for the case of tactic responses. Okay, so you're going to find that with the woodlouse or woodlice, the whole organism is going to move either away from light. With the flagellus moving with the sperm, the whole organism is moving with the whole organism is moving too. And I think I even responses is a growth movement or part of the plant. With tactic responses, the whole organism moves towards all away from in direction stimulus. And with nastic, it's just movement of the part in response to non-directional stimulus. So having looked at that background, and the question is saying that which one of the following is an example of a tactic response? A says rolling up of leaves. Now, with rolling up of leaves, It's just a body part, you see. So this one cannot be the answer. Why? Because it's just a body part that is moving. But with tactic, the whole organism moves, just like a taxi moves people from one place to another. Now, withdrawal of blowfly larvae from light. Now, I told you that the blowfly are those what you call houseflies that are green, those big houseflies which are green or blue. In Uganda, they're called inswera. Those green and inswera that are green or blue, those we call them blowflies. The normal houseflies are those gray, tiny gray houseflies. They are the normal houseflies, okay? And the larva of those flies are actually maggots. They are maggots. Now, a maggot can be able to move from when you shine light in it, it's going to withdraw away. Now, because a maggot can move from one place to another, so the best answer is going to be B. Withdrawal of a hand from a hot object, this is moving a body part. Then bending of a plant, now this is a growth response, okay? Now we can now look at tropism more in more detail. With the tropism, plant growth is a growth response, what you must know, towards or away from a given stimulus, okay? And they are also quite many. Now, what you must know is that these prefixes are used throughout the three different nastic, tactic, and tropism. But you just have to understand with the photo, that is with light, it has to do with light. Geo, it has to do with gravity. Thigmo, it has to do with the touch. Hydro, it has to do with water. Chemo, it has to do with chemicals. And then thermo, it has to do with the heat. Just like thermometer, you know that a thermometer is used to measure the heat, the body temperature. Now, it can either be positive or negative. It can either be positive. If it is positive, then it is growing towards the stimulus. If it is negative, then it is growing away from the stimulus. And the stimulus in this case, if it is photo, it's going to be light. If it is geo, it's going to be gravity. If it is thigmo, it's going to be touch. If it is hydro, it's going to be water, chemo, chemicals, and thermo, heat. Okay. Then with the geotropism, you find that geo means earth. But of course, in the earth, you cannot say exactly where the gravity is. You can't see it, but we can experience it on a daily basis. So with the geotropism, it's going to be a growth of a plant towards the center of gravity. For example, roots growing. If you can see, roots are growing down towards gravity. This is going to be positively geotropic or positive geotropism. Then with the negative geotropism is the growth response. Omarion, please don't write on the screen. You can rub off and get a duster. Okay, with negative geotropism, it is the growth of a plant away from the center of the plant shoot. That is the upper part of the plant grows upward away. So it's negatively geotropic. Then we have is geotropism important? Yes, it is important. It's going to pull roots down to anchor the plant. Imagine if the plants were not growing down, they would easily be swept off or blown away by wind, and they would easily fall. But now they're able to stand. You can find a very huge tree with very huge branches anchored because its roots are very deep down. They grow towards gravity, so they anchor this plant in the soil. Then roots can get needed water and minerals. You know that a lot of minerals are normally inside. A lot of minerals are normally inside the soil. Then what about phototropism? Is it important to be in the best position possible to trap sunlight energy for photosynthesis? If a plant is not receiving light what is going to happen is it's going to die. Why? Because it's not going to be making food. Photo means light. Synthesis means to make. Now the plant is able to trap that energy. Its use actually comes from the sun. It comes from the sun. Okay. Let me try to mute taking F1. Okay. So you can see here there was a light, and this plant had was facing the other side. So
Sorry about the teacher's connection. Me, your hand is up.
sorry for that small network problem. I was still telling you that okay, someone has his hand up. You put it down. Okay. I was still telling you that with thigmo, just remember when you hear the word thigmo, just like think of the word thumb in your fingers, thumb, thigmo, touch. Okay, it's going to be growth of a plant response to touch. Now, how does it happen? You see, for some plants, when they get attached, for example, this plant, which had attached itself onto this could be morning glory plant here in picture 1. So you can have okay, please you try to mute. Okay, please you try to mute. When you please wait. Okay.
All of us are muted.
So when you are in class, please try to mute your so that you can hear me clearly. Okay, we can continue. So with the thigmo, for example, you can see this plant. This plant is morning glory plant. It had when it touches this ladder here, it begins growing because you know that is its support. So that because it has weak stems, so it can get support so that it can grow as high as possible to trap sunlight energy. And you can also see here on this kind of tower, again, these vines were growing on this wall, again, due to Tropism. Also, you can see this plant here. It could be the pea plant with these tendrils. The moment they get attached to this is again, this is a pea. Pea, sweet pea in Uganda is called cow, the pea. So they can have the tendrils get attached onto a solid surface, and they keep on growing because they can feel the touch. That is Tropism. Remember, with the tropism, it's a growth response in response to a given stimulus, and the stimulus here is touch, getting attached onto this surface, getting attached onto the surface. Then with thermal, now these plants are not common here in Uganda. I don't know whether I've seen them before. With thermotropism is the tendency of a plant or other organism to bend towards or away from heat. And the most common example is the curling of the rhododendron leaves. These are not common, but there are some areas that have them. Then with the thermotropism, you find that is a move Please, Faiz, on mute. Okay. With the chemotropism is a movement caused by chemical stimulus, for example, growth of a pollen tube is always towards the ovule. And then with hydrotropism, is the growth in response to water. Okay. Please try to mute Faizo. Faizo and Albert, please try to mute. Then with hydro, remember it is it has to do with response to water, and you can see. For some of you, I think if you can't mute, I will just push you out of the class. So with this, you can see in this picture, it had bent because of light, probably. Okay. A final quiz for you, for every one of you. The following pictures. We're having picture A. Who can give us the answer? Identify the type of tropism in the following pictures. You can raise your hand and you tell us the answer. Okay. In picture A. Yes, Mubaka.
That's phototropism.
In picture A, do you think it is phototropism?
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys agree with the Mubaka's answer? You guys agree with the Mubaka's answer? Okay. Yes, Charity.
Agree.
Okay. Actually, the thing is, you can see this is a potted plant which had been inverted. They inverted it, and remember, for plants, if you put a plant in a pot, it's I'm assuming this is the pot. It's supposed to grow upward. It's supposed to keep on growing upward like that. It grows upward. It grows upward. But check what is happening. This one went and then it bent up. Okay. Now, what made it bend is gravitational pull. You see, with the shoots, they are negatively, the shoots, that is the upper part of the plant, they're negatively geotropic. So now this is exhibiting geotropism, that it had to grow away from gravity, and that's why it bent. So this is going to be negative geotropism. This is going to be negative geotropism. Okay. Then in B, you can see that there is a light source here. It is a light source here. And because there is a light source, this bean plant is growing towards light. This is going to be positively phototropic, positive phototropism. Then with the C, now C is the same as A. You find that they had made this plant to grow horizontally. So it's actually supposed to grow like that, supposed to grow like that. But because the shoots of plants are negatively geotropic, so it bent upward. It bent upward. Then lastly, D is also negatively geotropic, negatively geotropic. And then who can guess E? What about E? Can you identify the type of tropism that is being exhibited in E? Yes, David.
Tropism.
Thank you very much, David. Yes, this is Tropism. You can see this plant touched itself onto this rod in someone's compound. And this is Tropism because it is growing in response to touch. Thank you very much, David. Unless you have any question, do you have any question? In summary, today we have been introduced to coordination in plants, and under coordination in plants, there are different terms that we have looked at that exhibit plant responses. One was Nastic response, 2 tactic responses, 3 the tropic responses. Okay, so yes, Techno Go 20, you have your hand up. Techno Spark Go, the one using Techno Spark Go 2020, you have your hand up. You can unmute and then you ask your question. Okay, I'm not getting him clearly, but in case you can't actually say the word, you can always type the question in the chat room. I will be able to see the question and then I'll be able to respond to it. So I'm still giving you a summary of this topic that we have been introduced to Nastic responses, tactic responses, and tropism. So I think with next time we shall have to understand more of these responses and then looking at oxygens in details. Unless you have any question, I would like to end the lesson now. Do you have any question before I end the class? Do you have any reaction, any question before I end the class? Yes, David?
Can we get like the copy of all this work? Because we didn't get time to note all of them down.
Oh, okay. Yes, David. We are going to share it in your group, and you're going to have a copy of this work. Thank you for that concern.
That was my question.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it is 1 minute to 10, and I hope you guys have tried to understand. And what I can assure is that at the end of this topic of coordination, I'll share with you a test summarizing all these, which you can try to do. And in case you have time, you can send me the answers inbox and I mark your work. Otherwise, enjoy yourselves and goodbye for now.
Namaste.